Welcome to another painting class with me, Paige, your host. I'm the chief pixel pusher and paintbrusher over at Gumption, and tonight we're going to be painting Grogu. And if you're not familiar with who Grogu is, you can see he's Baby Yoda from the new Mandalorian series. So tonight's class was a special request from my Patreon subscribers. So stick around and hang out with me, and we're going to paint him tonight. So first and foremost, what you're going to want to do is, let's see, we are going to want to download the reference image for this class. So I'm going to throw that here in my comments. You can hear my cat in the background wanting in so badly, but there's the trace image. Grab that now and get that printed out, or you can just use it as a guide to sketch, and we will get started. What else do I have for tonight? So we're painting Grogu tonight. Our class will last about an hour tonight, so just reserve that much time for it. Again, you can grab that reference material in the chat there. Also, you can find it if you're tuning in from the Art Center. It is also with the description on the Art Center webpage there. And it's in the description down below in YouTube. So go ahead and check that out. Let's see. Tonight we're going to be using some green colors. So you can use a convenience green if you would like, or you can mix your own green. And we're going to be using raw umber, a brown of some sort if you have a brown color. And we're going to be using Payne's Gray, or I use Sodalite, which pretty much looks the same. And if you would like to, you can use salt, table salt tonight to add texture. We'll see how far we get. I must not have grabbed it, but it's here in my studio. So if you have any questions, or if you're here in chat with me, please throw your questions and tell me hello in chat so I know you're here with me. If you have questions about classes, these generally are happening every Thursday. I think it's the third Thursday. It's a Patreon only class, and that either happens live through Zoom, or it happens through here where we invite our guests on to the show so I can see them and they can share their work if they want to. Okay, so let's see, what else am I forgetting? Got to touch base on everything. Okay, if you want to learn more about me and my company, you can go to ihavegumption.com and you can check it out over there. I also have a calendar over there that has a class schedule, so you can see that there. All right, so I think we've got our business out of the way. Let's see. So it looks like Laurel's here with us tonight, and hopefully she can hang out and paint with us tonight. This was a special request, and I think it'll be really fun. So welcome, Laurel. I'm glad that you're here tonight. Okay, so let's see. We're going to switch cameras, and we're going to get started. So if you're just tuning in, go ahead and grab those links in the chat so you can grab the artwork, and we will get started. Okay. So I kind of thought I might have some new students in here tonight. We will see. And if you're new and you're wondering what kind of paper to use, this is a paper that I use for these classes. It's not too expensive, and it's pretty good quality. It won't fall apart on you. So this is a great option if you're looking for watercolor paper just to practice on. And I'm going to do this the old-fashioned way because I want my students to be able to keep up with me. So I have printed out Grogu. You can use transfer paper, or you can just take your pencil lead and let's see if we can make this a little bit higher. There we go. Use pencil lead to transfer it. So I'm going to do that now while you guys can draw out your little baby Yoda, and we will get to painting. So if you are a fan of The Mandalorian, I'd love to hear that. My husband is a big fan. And I did this painting of this guy when the series first came out. And as you can see, I had little stickers made with him because I just thought he was so cute. So sometimes I will give those to my customers who buy stickers from me. I don't sell them, but he was too cute not to make a little sticker. So if you're just sketching this out, I would suggest sketching the overall size of it. Oh, hey, there's Colin. Nice to see you, buddy. I hope that you get a chance to paint with us tonight. It's nice to, it feels like I'm back on a normal schedule. I have been on a project, a mural project that's been out of the house, obviously, and it's nice to be kind of back home and working from the home office. You have it good if you get to work from home. So, and my project was really fun, so I am going to have a process video of that should show up in a couple weeks. If you're interested in mural work or animal art. Again, if you're just tuning in, you can go ahead and get into the chat there, wherever you're tuning in from, and I have a link to the artwork that you can download and you can trace, or you can just sketch it if you would like to. This one was a little more complex, so I tried to send this out ahead of time to the students that I know come to class regularly, and thought it might just be easier to trace. But I think I was saying, if you want to sketch this, just sketch with the overall shape in mind and then start whittling down the details. So I guess maybe I might have misinterpreted Colin. Are you saying that you're a fan of The Mandalorian too? And I just missed that. So I think while we are kind of getting this drawn, I'm going to throw this guy up in the corner here so you can see what the finished product looks like as you're painting along. Some students paint a little faster than others, and so you'll have that example there for you. So many little details, but we'll get it. So like I said earlier, you can mix your own green, which would be a yellow and a blue, and I often use Hansa yellow and ultramarine blue. Or you can use what is called a convenience color. If you have a tube of green that you really like, you can use that as well. So I'm always kind of checking to make sure that I didn't miss any spots here. Which I missed his nose. So Colin says everybody is a fan of The Mandalorian. So I think they are. I think they've got a good thing going there. Okay, so I think I'm getting pretty close here. Now you can see that is pretty light, so I may just sketch real quickly over certain areas that I don't want to lose, like the nose, maybe the eyes a little bit. I actually attended a conference today, the Vertex conference, and they have some phenomenal artists and animators that were a part of that conference. And I have a lot of respect for character designers who come up with these great concepts. It's quite a talent, and it's not as easy as one might think to truly come up with great characters. Well, I should say it was always sort of challenging for me, I should say. Some people just have that natural gift. Okay. So that's probably good enough. I think we can get to painting. Okay, so first we're going to need to mix up some color. And so I'm going to use a convenience color, and I am also going to use a mixed color so you can have the experience of both. I'll bring my water over. So I wet down my paints beforehand. Move this guy so he doesn't become a casualty here. So I have this great color. This is a core watercolor that is this green gold, and it looks a little bit different on camera than it actually looks like in person. It's sort of like a pea green, but it's a really nice color. It has quite a bit of yellow in it. And I think it's perfect for him. Should note too, we're also going to be using a little bit of pink. So if you're a big fan of opera pink or magenta, well, this is your night. We're going to do a little bit of pink in his ears. Okay, so I'm using a Hansa yellow, and I'm trying to get my yellow mixed in there first so I don't make a mess of it with my ultramarine blue. So that's probably good. And then I'm going to hit my ultramarine blue. See, and this looks really warm on camera, but this is a really cool lemony color. So, and by adding ultramarine blue, it gets really nice. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the screen here, but this is a really nice kind of grassy green. I'm going to add a little bit more blue to this so it's a little more on the cool side. And that might be good. Okay. Okay, so we'll start with making him green first. You can see in the camera here where I have this image up here of him, those colors are represented correctly, I think. So that is really what we're shooting for. So I'm going to just take water and get all the parts, mostly the top of the ears and his skin here around the eyes. And I'm just going to wet it because we're going to do a wet and wet technique here. And we're going to start with our, when we start putting paint down, we're going to start with the kind of a green, pea green, yellowy green. So if you don't have green gold, you can just mix your yellow and your blue, but you're going to leave more yellow. It's going to be more yellow than it will be and warm as opposed to cool. And I can see that my paint is already drying here. So I'm going to have to work kind of fast. And then I'm just going to drop in this green gold. So in theory, light would be coming from the top here. And we'll just be dropping this in. Now, how are you guys doing? For those of you who are tuned in, who are my regulars, hopefully I'm not moving too fast for you. So this looks, it really looks super yellow on the screen. And then I'm going to take my brush, I'm going to get into my cool green here. I'm just going to drop it in, and you can just watch that move. And I might hit kind of under here, tap in along these ridges so I can have some kind of cool areas. And so now what I'll do is I will dry this. So I imagine that you're painting along. So I will have to mute you. Let's see here. So I'm just going to mute myself and get. Okay, so one thing I did forget to get was his hand. So I'm going to just kind of do the same thing and just use some water and add in my green gold and my cool. So I'm going to start here. Just kind of moving that bead around a little bit. And then I'm going to go in with my dark green and tap it in from the bottom. Because you're going to have more shadow kind of in this inner part. And on the underside there. Then we can just let that dry. Now I think it's a good time actually because we'll do some shaping and shading. I'm going to bring this over so you can kind of see this. we're going to have some shading underneath, but I'm going to save that. We're going to get our base colors down first, and then we'll start adding more detail. And let's see, grab a paper towel here. So I'm going to get a little bit of my opera pink. This is a hot pink color, but if you have, this is a shell pink color, if that's what you've got, you can use that. You just want to make sure that your paint is dry for this step. I'm just going to dilute this out pretty well. And you can see it's not super saturated, so that's pretty safe. I think one of the hardest things when you're starting to do watercolor is determining the water pigment ratio, and you can always test it on a separate piece of paper. But here, this is a really nice light pink. If you have a magenta, you can use that as well, or a quinacridone coral. And of course, I love layering because it allows you a lot of control. So I just dipped this in a little bit more pigment, not too much. And then I'm just going to let that dry. Looks like I didn't draw this portion in there, but that's good. So that is good. We'll let that dry and we'll just keep moving along. Let me know how you're doing in the comments so I know that I'm not going too fast for you. Okay. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a brown. Now I make a brown that I use, but if you have a neutral tint or you want to mix you know, your primaries together to get the brown color or complementary colors to kind of get a brown color, you can do that. If you have Van Dyke brown, that might be a good color too. And I'm going to clean out this little guy and just use my brown in there. Now for my Patreon subscribers, I say this every time, but I need to get you. I have some pots of, this is what I call Pages Brown. It's a mixture of a plum color and a Maori blue color and a Roman black color, but it's a real lovely brown. I think I'm going to need a little bit smaller brush for this. So I think this is a, I'm not sure what this is, a 4 maybe, 6 maybe. And I'm just going to go into this eye area. I'm just going to do the whole area for now. When you're painting in watercolor and you don't have the eyes painted yet, it's always kind of weird looking. So this way we can kind of get all our stuff painted, and it will start kind of looking like something. So it doesn't have too much in this illustration that I've done. There's not too much white to the eyes. There's just a smidge, and if you just paint in all your brown, that's okay. We can go back with gouache and paint it. Now I feel like I want a little bit more pigment in here, so I'm going to do that now. The great thing about watercolor that you can do is lifting. So we're later we will be doing a little bit of lifting in the eye area to give it some dimension. Basically, that's where you take a dry brush and you can lift pigment, or you can take a wet brush over dry media and scrub it a little bit and lighten that area too. Okay. So as you're painting, I'm going to see if I can locate my salt. And I will be right back. Maybe. Well, it looks like my salt ran off with the pepper. So I'm going to let you know you can use salt for this step, or you can just do some color mixing. You can get creative here. So for his coat, I'm going to use a color called Raw Umber. Let's see, where are you? So this is Raw Umber here. This is a great color to have in your arsenal of colors. Oftentimes, it doesn't necessarily come in a kit. And so you'll probably want to purchase this at some point just because it's just a really nice color. And I love mixing it with mineral purple. It just works really well with that color. So you can see, it looks like on the screen here, it has an accurate representation of the color. So I'm just mixing this up ahead of time here. And feel free to throw any questions you might have in the chat here. If you think you have a question, you know somebody else does too, probably. Okay. So this is another one. I'm going to mix up. I'm going to get a little bit of my brown going too, because we can use them in the coat here. Okay. And we're going to do another wet and wet technique. And hopefully by now your hand here is dry. If it's not, go ahead and hit it with a hair dryer and before we start going here. Okay. So I'm just going to wet this area that's for the coat. Got a little bit of pigment in there, but sometimes I find that is really helpful. So you can see how wet your area is. We'll want to get the cuff too. And then we can drop in our burnt umber. And you can have fun with this. You can do the whole area, or you can just drop it in areas. This raw umber is I think it's a Holbein color. And they don't have as much movement as my core colors. But that's okay. So I'm just trying to get this color down. Might want to dab in some color and let it spread. You can dab in your brown if you want. Heck, you could change the color of his little outfit if you wanted. You can even move your page around if you want. Kind of add some fun texture to this coat. Who would think a little guy like this would be so cute? Okay, so we are cooking. This is really good. We are, time-wise, we're in about a half an hour. Okay, so I'm going to grab my hair dryer. I'm going to let this dry. If you want to keep adding to your coat, you can do that. And I will be right back. I'm going to mute myself here. Okay, so we are done drying this. So this didn't turn out too bad as far as texture goes. You can add more to it. Now, I didn't mention this. I think I mentioned it in passing. So if you're a new student, if you want to create texture with salt, during the time that this is wet, you just sprinkle some salt in here and it will create this texture that it has, that I had here with my original little painting here. But obviously you can work around that as well. So it's okay. Let's see. Now let's see, I'm going to work on the pupil right now for the eyes, and then we will go back to working on the green color. So I'm just going to mix up what would be Payne's gray or a dark color, whatever you've got. You might even have black, and maybe you like to use black. This is Sodalite, but it is essentially a dark gray blue color. And I want to make sure I probably have enough pigment in there. That looks pretty good. And I have to look at my illustration here to make sure that I color in the right lines. But I'm just going to paint in his pupil. He has like giant pupils. I need to make this one a little bit bigger. And if you want to, you can extend that eye. This one looks a little bit smaller. But what you can do at this stage, they look really dark. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. Let's see if we make sure we are. I feel like my lighting isn't so great today. But you can do you take your brush and you wipe it on your paper towel. Make sure that you've got the fluid out of it. And then you can kind of lift to create dimension here in the eye. You can even do that a little bit at the top. Lifting is a great tool when working in watercolor, especially if you wind up having something happen where you didn't plan for that to happen. A lot of times you can fix things. So I'm going to take an extension of this and kind of extend the eye here, almost like eyeliner. He's got one wonky eye, it looks like, on this. Okay, so I think I'm going to leave that. We're doing pretty good here. We're at 37 minutes. All right, so I'm going to use this this color here. I'm going to put it in the nails. Kind of just around the nail there, and kind of drawing in the pudgy parts of his fingers. If you need a little more pigment, go ahead and grab that. So as I think I just have my regular students in here with me now, but if you are beginning painting, it never hurts to get a smaller paintbrush for little detailed work, especially if you're working small. We can also take this and kind of darken this area here. You could even put a little of your green in there, because that would be in a little bit of shadow. If you need to feather something out here, you can dip your brush in water. I kind of just take a little bit excess water off with my fingers and then soften edges. And now, since you have a base layer of your green skin tones, you can go in and do another layer to create the ridges around the eyes. And I can just soften it up here around the eye. It's got some interesting facial features here. So this is kind of like glazing. I call it glazing, but we're just taking one of the same colors that we used. In this way we can define areas. The lips. And the nose. Under eye area. And you can even use your darker colors to do this as well, like your Payne's Gray. If you want to add a little bit more contrast, you can do that there. You could even bring back in your green gold color. If you want to. Just fun to kind of shape the face. And here on the sides, if I bring in this green gold color, it definitely kind of separates his ears a little bit. You can tap in your green color there. Here I'm just kind of doing a little bit of shading with my mixture of my ultramarine blue and my Hantha to kind of give his head some shape here. You can even add a little bit of your Payne's Gray into your green if you want. It'll just make it a little bit darker green. So you can define some areas, make them a little bit darker. He needs a little smile on his face, I feel like. And if you need to, for his nails, I feel like I want to just add a little bit of contrast to his nails. The thing about watercolor is oftentimes it dries lighter than it looks when you lay it down. So sometimes you just have to keep kind of assessing and reassessing your value on a piece. How are you guys doing? Is this a fun class for you? It's a little bit different than our norm, but it's definitely a cute little guy. So here I'm painting in these areas of his coat just to kind of define them. We're sort of losing them a little bit here. Can do a little bit of a soften this a little. Sometimes you need a little bit bigger brush. Going for a bigger brush. So these are kind of similar in value. So when this is dry, I'm going to define this edge a little bit more. But for now, I'm just going to let that dry. You can go back in with your burnt umber. So I'm going to let that dry. And then as I'm looking at my illustration here, I see that I really need to kind of go in here with this green under, you have your light coming from this direction, so you'd have more of a form shadow here. So I'm just going to put in this form shadow, which that's the area that turns away from the light and forms the object that you're painting. You can kind of define your edge of your ear here if you want. So I kind of do this round robin technique. You'll see me bouncing around quite a bit, and I just utilize drying time essentially. Let's see. So one thing's drying and I can move to the next thing. Do you think he's starting to look a little bit like Baby Yoda? So now I'm actually going to get a little bit more of my opera pink. So I can add a little bit more color to these ears. You could choose to use a different pink too if you wanted a little bit of a contrast. And I think I'm going to add a little bit of this yellowy green color down below. I'm just slapping it on there, and then I will smooth it out here a little bit. Okay. Now you can continue to add, some to this brow bone here if you want to. This actually extends down to his nose, which I'm going to lift this a little bit. I didn't want it to go that far. So you can continue to play with this. You could even use colored pencil and go in and do some detail work if you want to. That's kind of a fun thing to do too. I'm going to fix this eye because I feel like he needs some more brown here. So you can add a little more if you want to add some more color to his eyes. They're awfully kind of dark and big. This guy's still wonky on this side. Probably. We'll take it. So one thing that you can do for the highlight in the eye is you can take a gel pen and use that. I have some dried gouache that I like to reconstitute and use, so I will use that. Sometimes you'll have to do a couple passes with it, or at least I do. This is designer gouache from the tube. Just add a little bit of highlights here. We'll see how that dries. You can even put a little in the corner or at the water line if you want to. But that helps bring him to life. And then I'll continually work on something. I have a tendency to overwork them sometimes, but until I get to where I want my piece to be. So I might actually go in with my Payne's Gray and just define some areas a little bit. You can see this is pretty diluted. You can go around the eyes a little bit more. I may want to do a little bit of a shadow underneath his nose. It looks kind of like a little bigger here, but soften it a little bit. Yeah, you can kind of just keep working. Now the color doesn't look right necessarily on our screen here, but check out the image in the top left corner. That is really what we're shooting for, those colors. So from my end, this is how this little guy looks, but for some reason my computer is not picking it up today. It's not playing today, so. Kind of wonder what happens if Baby Yoda blushes. Do you think he just turns a warmer shade of green? Kind of wonder. Okay, so if you have questions, now might be a good time to throw them in chat. I can answer those. I think I'm even gonna, to really help show the line of his little top here, I'm gonna give it a little bit of a line. Can you hear Harlow? She's coming down the hall, meowing her heart out. Okay, let's see what questions you might have here. Can you guys hear her? So this is Grogu, or Baby Yoda. You can keep working on this. I'd love to see any illustrations that you have done through this class. So you're welcome to tag me on Instagram and share those with a hashtag if you'd like, or just tag me. I'd like to thank my patrons who made this possible. This was a request from you for today's class. So thanks for coming up with an idea and sharing it. And it's super fun to have suggestions from you guys. And thank you so much for supporting this channel. And if you want to learn more about me or my classes, you can go ahead and hit ihavegumption.com and you can learn about my work and the class schedule that's happening. So I think we're at our 55 minutes. So now's a great time for you to ask questions if you have any. And if you haven't had dinner yet, you could probably go have dinner too. I really appreciate you being here. Thanks so much for tuning in. And I look forward to seeing you next Thursday. We'll have a new class. And I'm not sure what we're going to do yet, but we will come up with something. So until then, enjoy the rest of your week and your weekend. And since I don't have any questions here, I'm going to sign off. So thank you, and I will see you next time.